With seated dumbbell curls, you're able to take off all momentum from the movement. So the seated variation of the curls are much harder than the standing version, in my opinion. At the gym today, started off the workout with 30 minutes of backwards walking. And if you've watched my previous videos, you know I like to do a lot of backwards walking because it helps with knee mobility and stuff. For more info on that, check out Knees Over Toes Guy. In any case, starting off with heavy staggered landmine squats. So again, when I'm at the gym, I like to do things that I can't really do at home. One of them being heavy squats, but my favorite kind of squats is landmine squats. So that's what I usually end up doing. I'm gonna do heavy landmine squats for 10 reps, divided into 5 reps on each shoulder, each staggered position, and superset that with 5 snatches on each hand to add an explosive element and also keep the heart rate high, which is another thing that I like to do, is keep my heart rate high during the weight training portion of my workout, so that I get the benefits of cardiovascular training along with weight training. Anyway, all of that. This is my 4th set, and yeah, looks like this. Moving into snatches. Gonna do one more set of this and then on to something else. I want to do a little bit of arms today since I don't do that very often, and also some chest presses or something like that. But yeah, we'll see what happens. So for the next set of exercises, doing arms like I previously mentioned, start doing this tricep with 2 movements for the tricep and 1 movement for the bicep. Gonna do single arm rope grip tricep push downs for 10 reps. And then after hitting 10, I'm gonna switch to an overhead grip and do 10. The triceps should really be burning at this point, and should pretty much be close to failure at the 10th rep of the second movement. So if you plan on doing this, pick the resistance accordingly. Then repeat the same on the other hand. With the tricep pushdowns, really take time to feel the stretch. Take your shoulder out of the equation and make sure you're just bending at the elbow. And then even incorporate a wrist flexion at the end to exaggerate the tricep contraction. I don't know if I did a few extra reps on that or what, but my left tricep's already feeling it. Doing unilateral moves such as this is also good for balancing out any strength discrepancies from one arm to the other. Most people have some sort of discrepancy when it comes to one arm to the other, when it comes to the strength of various muscle groups. And it's good to incorporate a lot of unilateral movements, no matter what the muscle group is, in order to even things out. So for example, I was doing landmine squats in a staggered position today, which recruits the legs in a unilateral way. So for the final movement, doing alternate dumbbell curls, alternate kettlebell curls. By the end of the tricep, you should feel a really good pump in your arms. I'm a big fan of supersetting triceps and biceps. It really gives a good pump. But yeah, I'm gonna do this for, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 sets. I'm gonna keep going until it feels good, and then on to something else. I'm going to do one more arm movement before I do a chest movement. So for arms, I'm gonna do alternate tricep skull crushers to seated dumbbell curls. So looks like this. Onto seated dumbbell curls. With seated dumbbell curls, you're able to take off all momentum from the movement So the seated variation of the curls are much harder than the standing version, in my opinion, and allows me to focus a lot on the bicep contraction, or a lot more. That doesn't mean that I'm not able to connect with it as much on the standing version, but I definitely feel much more of an isolation effect when doing the seated curl. In my personal opinion, for doing arms, you have to focus on compound movements more so than the isolation. What I mean by compound is in doing movements where your bicep is an accessory muscle to the overall movement. So, for example, pull ups, body weight rows, things like that. For example, if you look at the bodies of gymnasts, they have really well developed biceps, but I don't think many of them do a whole lot of curls, or if any curls at all. So then it starts making me think, how do you get those biceps? Well, you incorporate them. They develop those by incorporating them into compound movements. The movements that I'm doing right now aren't compound movements, they're isolation movements. It's good to have these to shape the muscle, to like give a little bit more oomph to the bicep. But as far as overall size, it comes more from just getting stronger at larger movements overall. So like if you're able to pull a lot of weight on biceps or on pull-ups, like doing weighted pull-ups and stuff, I think your bicep size is more likely to improve that way. At least in my personal opinion. Experiences may vary, but in my personal opinion, if you notice a lot of these calisthenic athletes, they have big biceps, but they barely do any curls. And so there is something to be said for doing biceps through compound movements, so like through chin-ups or body weight rows or something like that, where the whole body is involved, versus just doing isolation movements. But the isolation movements are important, in my opinion, to give it a little bit of shape. So like when I'm doing a straight, like a full curl, I'm able to focus on that full stretch, and then also do things like rotate my palms and stuff like that to like exaggerate a little bit of the shape of the different areas of the biceps. That's the stuff that I'm focusing on when I'm doing isolation movements. I'm not necessarily doing it for size, so like you'll never see me go like too heavy on curls, because I'm just trying to get my mind into the muscle and that focus on those little aspects of things. And the size of it will develop automatically if as I do more pull-ups or get stronger at other movements such as rows or anything like that, where the bicep acts as an accessory muscle. That's just my personal opinion, and that's just how things have worked for me. Uh, that being said, I could definitely use bigger biceps or whatever, but yeah, just some thoughts about curls while we were recording it. So for the next exercise, doing single arm dumbbell presses. So I like doing single arm dumbbell presses to focus on unilateral strength. Also, having one dumbbell on one side forces the core of the other side to stay activated to maintain balance. I'm choosing to have my one leg on the bench, but that's not necessary. I'm just trying to experiment with the stimulus that I feel while doing this, and trying to get a full stretch and really focus on the full range of motion while doing this movement. What I notice is when a lot of people do chest presses, they stop at 90 degrees. And Uh, while I think personally, go lighter and focus on the full range of motion. It will lead to overall healthier muscles and joints. And while you might not be able to lift as heavy weight, I think it's better in terms of longevity and also mobility. And I don't think like the so when you're doing a full stretch chest press, I think it helps exaggerate some of that striation or the striated look of the chest. So give it give it a shot. Single arm dumbbell presses with a full range of motion, and even if you're doing regular dumbbell presses, focus on light, or at least for a part of the workout, focus on going through full ranges of motion and holding it at the bottom and like pausing and all of that, so that you can maintain that capability of the chest to stretch and go through all the full joint movement. Otherwise you'll end up having really stiff shoulders. It's hard to formulate thoughts when I'm still pressing the weight. But I guess the point that I'm trying to make is, with a lot of dumbbell, when a lot of people dumbbell press or do the bench press, they stop at 90 degrees and just try to like bounce out of the lower part of the movement. Instead, take time with lighter weight to get the full stretch, hold it there for a second, and push out of it. I've found that like the mass gains from one to the other, or at least the look gains, isn't too different. You definitely want to be able to use, or you definitely want to use heavier load to get that thickness. And so in those cases, yeah, surely do nine, like those half reps or bouncy reps or whatever. But definitely spend a lot of time getting that full stretch in the chest to maintain the shoulder mobility. Because what ends up happening over time is your body becomes really strong in that 90-degree position. But anytime your body has to experience that range of motion where it's below the 90 degrees, it puts you at a risk of injury. And if it's purely from an aesthetic perspective, I think going the full stretch improves the striated look of the chest. It's just my personal opinion and personal experience. But yeah, give it a shot. For the final movement of the workout before I head to the sauna, doing incline dumbbell presses, but still keeping the theme of single dumbbell and full range of motion. Looks like this. So yeah, if you might have noticed, I'm still focusing on the full range of motion and taking a brief pause at the end of each rep to let it set instead of like bouncing out of it. When you bounce out of it, you're utilizing something called a stretch reflex, which isn't exactly bad, but it doesn't give as much mobility gains, in my opinion. And I also think it tends to tighten some muscle fibers here at the corner of the chest. So I used to be someone who did a lot of dips, but whenever I did dips, I would use the stretch reflex or that bouncing motion to get out of the dip, the bottom of the dip. Over a period of time, I think just because of, well, I don't know if it is because of that, but I ended up getting a really tight bundle of muscles in this area, and it severely impacted my chest and shoulder mobility and made me have really sore shoulders really often. So ever since focusing on full range of motion with dumbbell presses and just other mobility stuff in general, I've been able to loosen that and have my chest and shoulders feel a lot more healthy, or a lot healthier. So yeah, this is going to be the final movement of today's workout. I'm going to head to the sauna after this, where I'm going to do abs and whatever. And yeah, that's it for today's workout. See you all tomorrow.